the things with you that made it really easy rounds without anyone dying, so that way you could catch all the rewards. So let's get to it. Now, the very first round is going to be tricky because before you get to do anything, the High Seraph is going to cast a spell that will give everyone dark attack on them. So since you got the dark element on all of your attacks, the problem with that is that the High Seraph is 100% dark resistant, so you're not going to deal any damage. So here are a few ways that you can get around it, and we've got a lot of units that can help us. Uh, First thing you can do is with elemental weapons. So if you don't have any elements on your weapons, everything's going to be dark. But as soon as you have an elemental weapon, it's going to split the difference. So like say if you put on, uh, which is not a good example, but it'd be 50% light, 50% dark. He's resistant to light as well, so that doesn't really help you. But you can put on Flame Blade, you can put on the Coral Sword, which will make you 50% light, and that'll allow you to deal damage from the beginning instead of having to dispel the buff, because you can use Dispel Guy on Bushido Freedom on yourself. Just make sure that the person who has Bushido Freedom doesn't have really high stats and attack or magic, so they don't kill you. It'd be very important. So you can change your elements by having elemental weapons. You can use elemental magic with mages other than earth, light, or dark. And you can also use skills resistance. Divine Ruination is really good because it debuffs light resistance by 50%. So then you're still going to deal damage, even though it may not be as much. If you're needing it mainly to deal damage through chains, then everything's going to work out just fine. So if you take care of that, that's going to get you through the first 3 or 4 rounds dealing damage. The next big thing that you want to make sure you have on you immediately is that you debuff the High Seraph's magic and that you buff your spirit. The reason you want to do that is because Ultima is very strong. Now it's called something else in the game, but it is still really, really strong. So you want to make sure that you have his magic debuffed at all times. So that way, now besides that, most of the time you're just going to deal with normal. So if your team doesn't have a lot of hit points, or if you're worried about someone taking too many attacks in a row, having a provoke tank or using a provoke cover system will really, really increase your odds of every single round. Now, one thing you have to look out for when you're looking to go the 11 rounds is going to be 6 rounds in. The High Seraph's going to cast Grand Cross. Now, Grand Cross has the ability to put a lot of status ailments on. So having a unit like Minfilia, who's immune to status ailments, or Mercenary Ramza's the new one that's immune to status ailments, or equipping or other materia that'll make them immune to status ailments is very, very effective for this. Because as long as you have one person that's not affected that can cure everyone else, you're in good shape. Grand Cross itself doesn't do a lot of damage, especially if you've got the magic stat debuffed. So you just want to make sure that you get everyone back up and running, so you don't have too many rounds where people are inactive or they can't defend themselves. Now, while you're running through this, surviving 11 rounds is really tricky once you have a high-end group, because the problem is that you'll still deal a lot of damage relative to the boss's hit points. So there are going to be rounds where you need to defend and you need to not attack in order to make sure you last 11 rounds. And you know you will last 11 rounds once you see them summon the Ultima Demons. The only thing you want to do is make sure that you keep everyone's buffs in tip-top shape, keep him debuffed, and make sure you're healed. Around that he summons the Ultima Demons, everyone's going to attack at the same time. And so you'll have to deal with, 6 or 7 attacks instead of the normal amount you've been dealing with in the round. And that could possibly kill you if you're not prepared. So just be careful and make sure that you have your setup up and you stay strong, even though the boss may be almost dead and you have to defend to keep from killing him early. So that's it. I mean, those are really the only things that you need to know in order to make it through this. So I'm going to go over my crew and show you what I'm working with right now. Got a really good team. You know, the game's been kind to me. I've been playing for a while. And so you may not have the same level of a team, but this fight's still something that you can take care of just by following those rules. So I'm very confident everything's just fine. So I've got Darkfina in here because since she's a magic user, especially since she has Ultima, which is non-elemental, I'm always going to be able to deal damage. Doesn't really matter about the dark attack to deal damage. She's also immune to some status effects, which is really good. It's very helpful versus Grand Cross. And you know, she's doing great with equipment. I don't have dual wield or anything on her right now just because I doesn't need it, but yeah, she's doing well. And so she is who I have as my friend right now. So if you need a magic to help make sure that you're dealing damage to the boss, be sure to pick me up. And I'll be glad to help you out with dual cast Ultima because it can definitely get the job done, especially if you start chaining with it. Really, really good. Argobaz is really interesting because in this role he ends up playing support and a tank. And the reason I have Provoke on him is because he has a lot of high hit points and he's got safety. So while he's buffed, and especially when the boss is debuffed, he really doesn't take a whole lot of damage. And he also counterattacks to help you build a limit break gauge, which is what I want for Rikku, because then she gives me a really high buff and re-raise as well. So that's really his only job, and he attacks when he's not doing anything. Mainly he's going to use light attacks because like Word of Law gives damage reduction, and once the boss has been debuffed on his light resistance, then it'll deal some damage and help out. So it's really cool. Next we got Orlandeau. Paired him up with a friend Orlandeau and just did Divine Ruination because, you know, once the light debuff was there, you're going to deal damage. Now, my Orlandeau did not deal damage during the first couple of rounds. Still used him for Weapon Crush because Weapon Crush is a huge debuff to magic stat. So even when he wasn't dealing damage, he was still helping out the team with Weapon Crush and making sure that I lived. Got Sunbread on because you want Demon Killer on there, and you can also get Demon Killer through Diabolos and a few other methods. Tilla, she's on there because Tilla's bad. She's great. She's doing everything she needs to do. I've got Riku's pouch on her because when there's a round that she doesn't have to buff or do anything, Eccentric is awesome. And so she uses that at the beginning of this fight because there's really nothing else to do. And that basically guarantees that I have my limit burst available, if not the next round, by round 3. And being able to sit on those and have that utility available is really, really nice. And so, lastly, the only thing she's really doing is hyper null all and taking care of damage reduction for the team and resist so we can survive the 11 rounds. She doesn't really attack very much. She just kind of, and we let the damage dealers do their thing. This fight's pretty easy, so you don't really need everybody working hard as far as having a specific job of some sort. So, you know, once you know what you've got going on and you make sure that the debuffs are there and that your buffs are there, you'll be fine. The fight's fine. And so I'm sure that everybody's going to be able to knock it out during this week. And I look forward to hearing about the comments below once you finish the fight and what method you used. So hit me up. Let me know about your team. Let me know what's happening. I appreciate you coming by. Until next time, this is Lee Van Dam. You guys take care. God bless. I've got the fight coming up. And so enjoy the video. And if you see anything else in there that's pretty cool, let me know in the comment section below. I really appreciate it. But take care.